Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're diving deep, about 30 kilometers off the Belgian coast, into the cold, murky waters of the North Sea. Down at a depth of 32 meters, there's a ghost, a steel behemoth from a forgotten time, resting silently on the seabed. This is the story of the SS Kilmore, a steam-powered freighter that sank in 1906. For over a century, it was little more than a navigational hazard and a footnote in maritime history. But today, this century-old shipwreck is at the center of a revolutionary story, a tale not of decay, but of rebirth. The Kilmore is no longer just a wreck. It's a vibrant oasis of life, an accidental laboratory, and a beacon of hope for an entire ecosystem on the brink. We're going to explore how this ghost of the industrial age is breathing life back into one of the world's most beleaguered seas. To understand why a single shipwreck can be so important, we first need to understand the crisis happening just below the waves. The North Sea has been the heart of European commerce and life for centuries. It's a critical shipping lane, a massive fishing ground, and a major source of oil and gas. But this intense activity has come at a tremendous cost. The North Sea is a sea under siege. Decades of industrial-scale overfishing have fundamentally altered the marine food web. Some fish stocks have been depleted to dangerously low levels, creating a domino effect that impacts everything from the smallest plankton to the largest marine mammals. Then there's the pollution. Runoff from farms and cities pours nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus into the water. This might sound good, like fertilizing a garden, but in the ocean, it's a disaster. This process, called eutrophication, triggers massive blooms of algae. When these algae die and sink, they decompose, a process that consumes vast amounts of oxygen. This creates huge, oxygen-depleted dead zones where most marine life simply cannot survive. Add to this the constant threat of oil spills from the thousands of ships and offshore rigs, and the overarching specter of climate change, which is warming the water and raising sea levels, further stressing this fragile environment. Perhaps one of the most widespread impacts is the physical alteration of the seabed itself. Centuries of fishing practices, particularly bottom trawling, where heavy nets are dragged across the seafloor, have scraped away the diverse habitats that once existed. What was once a complex tapestry of rocks, gravel beds, and reefs has, in many areas, been turned into a flat, monotonous landscape of mud and sand. In this profoundly altered, soft-bottomed world, any solid structure becomes incredibly valuable. Natural rocky reefs are scarce in large parts of the North Sea, so anything man-made that provides a hard surface can become an instant magnet for life. And this is where our story takes an unexpected turn, to the thousands of shipwrecks scattered across the seabed. The North Sea exclusive economic zone of the United Kingdom alone is estimated to contain over 30,000 known shipwrecks. Each one is a time capsule, but more importantly, it's an unplanned sanctuary. When a ship sinks, it provides a hard, complex substrate in a world of soft sand and mud. The process of colonization begins almost immediately. First, a thin layer of microorganisms, a biofilm, coats the steel hull. This film acts as a welcome mat for the larvae of sessile, or stationary, organisms that drift in the currents. Soon, the wreck is covered in barnacles, mussels, sea anemones, and colorful sponges. This growing community then provides both food and shelter for more mobile creatures. Crabs and lobsters find refuge in the nooks and crannies of the decaying structure. Schools of fish, like cod and pollock, are drawn to the wreck, using it as a landmark, a source of food, and a shelter from predators and strong currents. Marine scientists have found that the more structurally complex a wreck is, the more life it supports. A simple flat hull might attract some life, but a wreck with intact rooms, broken sections, and protruding equipment offers a multitude of different ecological niches, supporting a far greater diversity and abundance of species. It becomes a high-rise apartment building in the middle of a barren plain. However, the legacy of these sunken ships isn't always so positive. Many of the wrecks littering the North Sea are from the First and Second World Wars. They went down not with general cargo, but with holds full of hazardous materials, oil, unspent fuel, and thousands of tons of munitions rest in these decaying hulls. As the steel corrodes over time, these toxic substances can leak into the surrounding environment. A notable case study is the V1302 John Mon, a German patrol boat sunk during World War II off the Belgian coast. Research has shown that this wreck is actively leaking toxic pollutants, including heavy metals and chemical compounds from explosives, into the sediment. Scientists have found that these pollutants are altering the local microbial communities around the wreck. Yet, in a fascinating twist of adaptation, nature finds a way. Even on these toxic wrecks, life can thrive. Some specialized bacteria have actually evolved to use the leaking chemicals, like those found in explosives, as a source of energy. So, while these wrecks pose a significant environmental risk, they also create unique and sometimes bizarre ecosystems. This brings us back to our protagonist, the SS Kilmore. Unlike the warships, the Kilmore was a civilian vessel, a workhorse of the Edwardian era. It was launched in 1889, an 87-meter-long steel freighter built during the peak of the British shipbuilding boom. For most of its life, it plied the trade routes of the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, carrying goods back and forth. Later, it was reassigned to the notoriously busy and often foggy waters of the North Sea. Its career came to an abrupt end on the night of July 29, 1906, while on a voyage from Antwerp to Liverpool, shrouded in fog near the Westhinder lightship. The Kilmore collided with another, larger steamship, the SS Montezuma. The collision was catastrophic for the Kilmore. While thankfully all of her crew were rescued by the Montezuma, the Kilmore itself, with its cargo of fine porcelain, glass, and valuable copper bolts, slipped beneath the waves and sank to its final resting place, 32 meters below the surface. For decades it lay there, largely undisturbed and forgotten. But as scuba diving technology improved in the latter half of the 20th century, the Kilmore became a popular destination for recreational divers, who were stunned by the sheer amount of life that had claimed the wreck as its own. This eventually attracted the attention of marine scientists. A study conducted in 2005, long before the current restoration efforts began, documented a thriving and complex ecosystem on the wreck. The steel hull was almost completely obscured by a dense carpet of life. It was particularly dominated by a species of amphipod, a tiny shrimp-like crustacean called Jossa herdmani, which built tubes all over the structure, creating a fuzzy, living layer. But the scientists on that expedition found something else, something that highlighted the unique ecological role these shipwrecks can play. Clinging to the sponges on the Kilmore, they discovered a species of barnacle named Acasta spongites. Now, a barnacle might not sound like a groundbreaking discovery, but this was the first time this particular species had ever been recorded in the southern North Sea. It was previously only known from more southerly, warmer waters. The Kilmore, a solid structure in the open sea, had acted as a stepping stone. It allowed the larvae of this barnacle to settle and establish a new population far north of its previously known range. This discovery underscored a fascinating idea, that shipwrecks could act as a network of interconnected islands, facilitating the migration of species. In an era of climate change, as ocean temperatures rise, such stepping stones could become critically important for allowing marine life to shift its range and adapt to new conditions. The Kilmore was already a proven hotspot for biodiversity, but its story was about to enter a new, even more remarkable chapter. This chapter is centered on a pioneering initiative called the BELREEFS project. To appreciate the ambition of this project, we need to talk about oysters. The European flat oyster, scientific name Ostrea edulis, was once a dominant force in the North Sea. For millennia, these oysters formed vast, sprawling reefs on the seabed. These weren't just collections of oysters. They were what scientists call